Hello, my name is Jacques, and today we're going to continue learning the basics of the Bevy Game Engine. Bevy is a simple data-driven game engine built in Rust. It's free and open source. This tutorial is the 7th episode in my Learn Bevy 0.10 video series. This episode builds on what we learned in the previous episodes. Today we're going to be continuing with our bevy-ball-game project that we've been working on. In today's episode, we're going to be organizing our project by refactoring our code into Rust modules and Bevy plugins. This will give us a strong foundation from which to continue expanding our game. Note, this video turned out to be a lot longer than I expected. We're going to be doing 2 refactors. First, a modest refactor to fit the current project size, and second, a full refactor to move all our code into plugins. Don't feel like you have to code along to this whole video. I think it's okay to download the code for the episode. I'll post a link for the final code below. You can just follow along and look at the code yourself. Let's hop back to our code and get started. Right now, all our code exists within our main.rs file, which is getting quite long and becoming hard to navigate. We want to make it easier on ourselves as developers to hop around our code and know where things are. Organizing our code will make our lives easier as we continue to add features to our project. Let's perform the first refactor of our project. For the current size of our project, we could perform a more modest refactor as follows. We could create a module to hold our components by creating a components.rs file. We could create a module to hold our systems by creating a systems.rs file and placing all our systems in there. And we could do the same for our resources and events as well. Let's look at this now. Inside our source directory here, we're going to make some new files. We'll add a components.rs file, an events.rs file, a resources.rs file, and a systems.rs file. Each of these files are their own modules. Modules are a Rust concept, not a Bevy concept. Modules are used to split code into logical units. This helps with structuring and organizing larger projects. We can also nest modules inside one another. I'll add a link to this chapter of the Rust programming language book, which is the chapter on modules. Back to our code with these files created, back in our main.rs file, we need to declare these modules at the top of our file. We declare the components module, the events module, the resources module, and the systems module. Notice, in our main function here, we're going to need access to our events, our resources, and our systems, but not our components. So we also need to add some using statements here to use these modules in this file. We'll say use events, ::* to get everything inside that module. We do the same for the resources module, and also the systems module. Now that we've created these 4 modules, let's move all of our components to the components module, the events to the events module, the resources to the resources module, and lastly the systems to the systems module. Let's scroll down and grab all our components. I'm simply going to cut and paste them. Here in the components module, we can paste them in. But here at the top of our file, we need to remember that we also need to import Bevy. And now this components module should be fine for now. Next, let's move our events over. Right now we only have the one game over event. We'll cut and paste it. Go to the events module and paste it in here. Notice here, we don't need to use Bevy because this is just a plain Rust struct holding a plain Rust data type. Next, let's move over our resources. We've got quite a few here. We've got score, high score, the star spawn timer, and the enemy spawn timer. And I paste them in. I'm also using Bevy here because we're using Bevy types like resource. We're deriving resources. If you hit save, you'll notice we got our first error that we can't get to these constants. These constants should just live in this file, so I'm going to cut and paste them over here as well. But we'll hold on a minute to do the cleanup, and let's first just finish moving over the systems as well. Back to our main.rs file. I'm now going to grab everything that's still in here because these are all just systems. Cut and paste. Use Bevy at the top here. And paste in my systems. You'll notice now across our files we've got quite a few errors. This is because we need to import the types we need within these files. Let's start here with the resources file. We need to bring in the star spawn time and the enemy spawn time constants over to this file. Let's grab them from main. I'm just going to cut and paste again. and then back to the resources file. I'm going to put them here at the top. And now it looks like our resources file is fine. Looking at systems, we've got quite a few problems here. Off the bat, we can see we're missing primary window, so let's just go grab that from main. In our main.rs file, we'll just cut and paste this using statement, add it to the top of the systems file. There we go, some errors went away. What are some other ones here? We're missing random, let's go cut and paste that over. Back to main.rs, let's grab the use ran statement. Back to systems.rs, let's place this here at the top as well. There we go, a couple more errors went away. We see we're also missing some of our public constants that we need for our systems, so let's go grab them. I think all of these are used in the system, so we're just going to grab the rest of them. Back to systems.rs, here at the top after the using statements, but before our systems. We'll just paste them in there, and there we go. A whole bunch more errors went away. Now if you scroll through here, you'll see we're missing the components. So here, at the top of our file, we're going to grab them from the components.rs module. But to do that, we need to make the components module public. First, in main.rs, here where we declare the components module, we need to make this a public module. We say pub/mod components. Back to systems.rs, we can now say use create components star to grab everything, hit save, and wow, there are a bunch of errors went away. Let's scroll down here and see what's left. Oh, we need access to the score resource and the game over event. So let's do the same thing with our resources and our events. Back to main.rs, let's make the events module public and the resources module public. Save, back to systems.rs. Let's also use our events crate and resources crate. Grab everything and grab everything. Okay, nearly all our errors are gone now in our systems.rs file. Let's see what we're missing. Oh, just the app exit event. Let's go grab that from main. Grab it from here, put it at the top here, and there we go. All the errors in systems.rs are gone. Now everything looks good. Let's cargo build to see if we're in the clear. Okay, project compiled just fine. Cargo run just to make sure. Oh, also make sure to save all your files before you do this. Cargo run, and there we go. Everything's working just like before. Okay, that's our first refactor done. For this project, we could honestly just stop here and this project structure would work just fine. The only file that's still a bit bloated is the systems.rs file. Maybe we can make a startup systems.rs file just to split things up a little more. But again, for this project size, this structure works just fine. But we're going to take things one step further now and fully refactor our projects into plugins so that we've really got a strong base to keep working from as we continue to grow our project. Remember, plugins are a Bevy concept and how we split up our Bevy code into logical pieces. So what we're going to do now is create the following Rust modules to hold the following Bevy plugins. An enemy module to hold an enemy plugin, a player module to hold a player plugin, a score module to hold a score plugin, and a star module to hold a star plugin. Each module will hold its respective components, resources, and systems. Let's get started on this now. Here in our source directory, we're going to say new folder this time. We're going to call the first one enemy. We're going to make another one for player, another one for score, and a final one for star. Inside of each of these folders now, we need to create a file called mod. mod.rs, player, mod.rs, score, mod.rs, star, mod.rs. This is how you make a module that exists within a folder. Here in our main.rs file now, at the top where we had these mods, let's declare the modules we just created. Mod enemy, mod player, mod score, and mod star. We now have an enemies module, a player module, a score module, and a star module. Now within each of these modules, we're going to create submodules to hold the components, events, resources, and systems of each respectively. Let's start with the enemy module. We'll create a new file called components.rs, resources.rs, and systems.rs. Now, Inside the enemy folder module, this is the enemy module, we need to declare these submodules. Mod components, mod resources, and mod systems. Let's do the same now for the player module. We'll add components and also systems.rs. The player didn't have any associated events or resources, so we only need components and systems here. Now onto the score, we're gonna need resources.rs and systems.rs. Score didn't have any associated components or events, so we don't need them, and we only need resources and systems. Now lastly, for the star module, we're gonna need components. So we create the components module, a resources module, and a systems module. Back up to the player here because I got ahead of myself. Mod components, mod systems. Now to the score module, the submodules resources and systems. And finally to the star module, submodules for components, resources, and systems. Okay, now we need to take the corresponding components, resources, and systems and place them in the modules that they belong to. Let's start with components. We'll grab the enemy component. I'm just gonna copy paste to the enemy components module, paste it in. We need Bevy here at the top because this is a component. Back down to our original components file. Let's grab the player next. Paste that in the player components module. Again, we need Bevy. And finally, let's go grab star. I'll just grab this as well since this is gonna be empty now. Go to star components, paste that in, and look at that. This is now empty, so we can delete it. We're gonna need to go now to our main.rs file, and let's delete this since it no longer exists. There we go. Now notice, I don't have any events in here, but you can totally add them to a game where each plugin or module has its own events. I do that in my larger projects, but here for this project, because it's just this one, I'm just gonna leave it out here so that it's accessible to all the other modules. Okay, let's continue. Let's move our resources to their respective plugins. We'll start here with score and high score. We'll place them in the scores resource module. Again, we need Bevy because these are Bevy types, and that looks happy. Back to the original resources module. Let's grab this star spawn timer resource. Let me grab this public constant while I'm at it for the star resource. Grab those. Star resources. Paste this in. Again, we need Bevy, and there we go. That's happy. Back down to resources module. Let's grab this. This all belongs in the enemy resources module. Enemy resources, paste that in, save to format, and that's happy. There we go. One more down. Let's delete this original one now. Let's go to main.rs. We can get rid of that. And we can get rid of the use statement there. Now, finally, the big boy one, the systems. Let's start moving this over. Let's start with these public constants. Let's grab the player ones. Put them here in the player systems module. Back to our systems.rs file. Let's grab the enemy public constants, cut and paste. Enemy systems, drop them in here. Back to systems.rs. Let's grab the public constant for stars. Go to stars systems, paste them in here. Back down to systems.rs. Okay, now we need to start moving these systems over. So we've got some obvious ones. Let's grab spawn player here. Put that in player, systems. Don't forget to use Bevy here at the top. Back down to systems.rs. What's the next one? Okay, spawn camera. I think we're just gonna leave that here for now. Spawn enemies, let's grab that. Enemies, systems. Paste that here. Here's a good example of how it's getting mad because we don't have Bevy yet, so use Bevy. It's still a little mad, but we'll fix that later. Back down to systems.rs. Let's grab spawn stars here. Stars, systems. Star systems. Again, use Bevy here at the top. Back to systems.rs. Player movement. Let's see what else can we grab here while we're at it. Confine player movement. Okay, we'll grab both of those. Back to player systems. Paste those in here. Back to systems.rs. What's next? Enemy movement. Let's get enemy direction as well. Let's keep going. Confine enemy movement. Alright, let's cut that. Enemy systems. Paste those in. Back to systems.rs. Okay, here's another special case. Enemy hit player. Does this go in enemy plugin or the player plugin? Let's leave this for now. Player hit star. Here's another ambiguous one. Does this go in player or star? Let's leave it for now. Update score. Okay, that's another easy one. Let's grab that. Score systems. Paste that in. It's mad. Use Bevy prelude. Back to systems.rs. Tick star spawn timer. Spawn stars over time. Okay, those both belong with star. Cut. Star systems. Paste. Back down to systems.rs. Tick enemy spawn timer and spawn enemies over time. Okay, let's grab both of those. Cut. Enemy systems. Paste. Back down to systems.rs. Exit game, we'll leave that here. Handle game over. We'll leave that here as well for now. Here we go. Update high scores and high scores updated. That belongs in scores. So let's cut. Score systems. Paste. Okay. Back down to systems.rs. So, what do we have left here? We've got spawn camera. We'll leave that here for now. Enemy hit player. Let's deal with that. So it could go in the enemy plugin or the player plugin, but I think because the player is more important, let's put this with the player logic. So we'll grab this. And same for this one, same for player hit star. That's also more important to the player. So we'll grab both of those, and I'm going to argue that they live in player systems. Okay, back to systems.rs. These systems, spawn camera, exit game, handle game over, they're more like app logic, so we're just going to leave them in this kind of top level systems.rs module for now. We're no longer using the resources crate here because it doesn't exist. We're no longer using components here because it doesn't exist. We're still using events for the game over event, so that's going to stay here. Oh, I just hit save and now it's happy with that. Okay, so this file looks like it's fine. We're just going to leave it for now. We need to go fix the imports now for all our other system files that we move things to. Let's start with enemy. We'll go top to bottom. Okay, so what's it missing? Primary window. Let's go grab that. Looks like we're also using primary window here, so we're not going to cut it, but we are going to copy it. We could have also just written it out ourselves here, but we're being lazy. Okay, that error is gone. We also need random. Let's go copy random. Oh, actually, random's not being used here anymore, so we will cut it. Back to enemy systems. Paste random in. Okay, that's happy now. Okay, what's it mad about? It wants the enemy component. I think that's it. So, what we want to do now, in order to use the components in our enemies module from the systems module in our enemy plugin, in our enemy module, we're going to need to go here first to the enemy module, make the components module public. Now we can go to enemy systems, and we can do two things here. We could either do use crate enemy module components star component. I'm definitely got a spelling mistake there. So we can either use crate enemy module components module get everything, and there we go. We've got our enemy component now. That's working great. Or instead, because components is one level up, we could say use super components star grab everything. Okay, so I'll leave it up to you which one you want to use here. Let's scroll down, see what other errors we have. We need the enemy spawn timer resource. So same thing, we need to go to enemy module, make the resource module public, go back to systems, and again, pick which one you want to use here, but just import it, and now look, enemy systems is fine. Let's go fix up player systems next. Again, we need primary window. Copying because I'm lazy. We need the components. So again, player components. Make components module public. Use super components. Grab everything. Note, we only have one there, so we could just say player if we wanted to. That works too. What else is this mad about? Okay, we need the game over event. Okay, look here, we need the enemy component, which is in a different module. And we also need the score resource, which is in a different module. So let's start with game over. I think we can just do use create events. Game over. Okay, cool, that worked. Okay, to get enemy, we need to go up one more level to main.rs, and here, where we declare our enemies module, we need to make that public as well in order to get into the components module within the enemies module. Inside the enemies module, we already made the components module public, so we can just go player, systems, use, create, enemy, components, and now we can either do enemy or star. I'll leave it up to you. Scrolling down, we need to get the score resource. So similar to how we got the enemy components, let's go to the score module. First, let's make the resources module public. Let's go up a level to main.rs to our score module. Make that public. Go back to player systems. Here at the top, use create score resources star. Okay, there we go. What are we missing now? Enemy size, the star component, and star size. Okay, let's do enemy size first. Oh, look, if we hover here, the IDE is actually telling us it exists, but it's inaccessible. That's because it lives in enemy systems, which is currently private. Typically, we want to keep other module systems private, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into enemy systems. I'm going to grab these public constants. I'm going to cut them and put them in the enemy module instead. Save. If you go back to enemy systems now, it's mad that it can't see them. So we'll do super, we'll write use super, brackets, number of enemies, enemy size, enemy speed, semicolon, and those errors go away. Now these are accessible. So we can go to player, systems, back to the top, use create enemy size. I think that's all we needed. Player systems, star component. Okay, same thing. We've done this before. See if you can do it yourself. We're going to go to the star module, make our components module public, go up a level to main.rs, star module, make that public, back to player systems, to the top of the file, use crate, star, components, star. Again, you can use the one thing we need here, or you can just grab it all, leave it up to you. Back down, we need star size. We'll do what we did for the enemy components. We'll do what we did for the enemy public constants. We'll go to star systems, cut these, star module, put them there. We already made the star module public over here, so we can just go player systems, back to the top, use crate, star, star size. And look at that. Player systems are happy now. Okay, next, score systems. Looks like we want our resources. So this is the easy one. Use super resources, grab them all. Awesome. We want the game over event. Use crate events, game over. And there we go, that one's done. That was easy. Okay, star systems. What's it mad about here? It wants primary window, so let's just go copy that from somewhere else. Paste that in. Okay, next, it wants number of stars. That's sitting one level up now in the module. So we can just use super. Number of stars. Star size, number of stars. I think that's the only one that we need here. We get an error if it's not. Random, let's go copy paste that from somewhere else. Star systems, paste that in. Okay, the star component, use super components. There we go. Star or star. Nice. Okay, what else? Star spawn timer. That's sitting in our resources. Use super resources. There we go. And there we go. Star systems is also happy now. So let's go fix up main. Okay. Now, we've moved everything over, but we still have this mess. So what we want to do is in each of our modules, our enemy module, our player module, our score module, and our star module, we want to create a plugin. So let's make an enemy plugin first. We say pub struct enemy plugin, semicolon, not brackets. And now we need to implement the plugin trait for this struct. That comes from Bevy. So first things first, at the top of the file, use Bevy. And now let's implement the plugin trait. Now, to satisfy the plugin trait, we need to satisfy the build method. This is the build method. Inside here, it looks nearly identical to what we had here. We're going to need to add in our resources and our systems and our startup systems for that specific plugin. So enemy mod, inside the plugin here, app. Let's start by adding our enemy spawn timer resource. If we're lazy, we can actually just go here to main, cut that line, enemy mod, add that there. Okay, what else here belongs to the enemy plugin? Spawn enemies, that's an easy one. Enemy mod, save. Okay, back to main. We also want enemy movement, update enemy direction, confine enemy movement. Let's grab those three. Back to enemy mod, inside the plugin, add those systems. And then back to main, the final two for enemy is, here we go, these two. Tick enemy spawn timer and spawn enemies over time. I'm just gonna cut them. Enemy mod, paste those in. Okay, so those are all the systems that we actually moved in here that belong to the enemy plugin, logically speaking. Now, why is this still mad? Well, we just need access to them. So we just say here below our mods that we declared, use resources, star, there we go, use systems, star, grab all the systems. Oh, and we forgot a semicolon. Save, and look, there we go. The enemy plugin is happy and it's done. Now, we could either add the enemy plugin right now, or we can finish our cleanup. I'm gonna finish the cleanup and then I'll add all the plugins at the same time. So the next one is the player plugin. Go to player mod. First things first, use Bevy. Pubstruct player plugin. Implement plugin for player plugin. We need the build method. App. Let's go back to our main file. What do we need from here? First thing for the player is, here we go, add startup system spawn player. Player mod. Paste that in. Back to main. What else here is to do with the player? Player movement, confine player movement. We put the enemy hit player and player hit star also in the player systems. So let's grab those four. Back to player mod. Paste those in. Oh, semicolon. Okay, and now it just needs access. So we say use systems star. So it can pull, so it can get access to these systems that we put here in the player systems module. And there we go. It looks like the player plugin is done. Next, let's make the score plugin. First things first, use Bevy. We know we're gonna need both the resources and the system, so I'm doing things a little out of order this time. I'm just saying use resources, grab them all, use systems, grab them all. Okay, let's make a plugin now. Score plugin, implement plugin for score plugin. We need to fulfill the build method, app. Okay, what's related to score from main? Let's go to main. Okay, well, first thing, we need to init these resources. So let's cut score mod app init plugins. Okay, it's mad because we're missing a semicolon there. Okay, what else do we need for score? Back to main. What systems were we using? Update score. Update high scores, and high scores updated. Let's say update score, score, mod. Paste that there, back to main.rs. Let's grab these two, update high scores updated, score, mod. Paste those in, save. There we go, that looks good. Back to main.rs. What else do we need to move over here? I think that's good for the score plugin. Let's make the last one, which is the star plugin. First things first, use Bevy. make the star plugin, implement plugin for star plugin. We need to fulfill the build method. App. Let's go to main.rs to see what we need. Oh, here we go. We need the star spawn timer as the first thing. Star mod app init resource. Back to main. What else do we need here for the stars? We need to spawn the stars, take the timer, and spawn them over time. These three. There we go. Cut. Star mod. Add those. Semicolon. Save to format. Okay, now we need to add our using statements here. Use resources. Pull those in. Use systems. Pull those in, and there we go. The star plugin is done. Back to main.rs. Save to format. What are we left with here? These three systems, which we're leaving here in our top level systems module. So that looks all good. Notice all our errors went away. So the only thing we're missing now is to actually add the plugins we made back into our app. So we'll do it here after we're adding the event. We need to be careful that if sub-plugins rely on events from higher level plugins that we add the events first, because that might cause an error. So we're going to add the plugins after this event. Add plugin. We're going to use the add plugin method on our app. Let's start with the enemy plugin. Oh, we need to use this. So just like we're using our events and systems here from our modules, from these modules, we need to also get what we need. We also need to get the plugins from our other modules. So let's say use enemy plugin, use player plugin, use score plugin, use star plugin. Okay, enemy plugin's happy. Let's add the other ones. Add plugin, player plugin, add plugin, score plugin, add plugin, star plugin. Save, and let's hope I'm not too optimistic, but I think we're all done. Cargo build. Hey, there we go. We compiled. So I think we're all good. A note again that the compiler gives you fantastic warning messages. It's telling us that there's an unused import here in the source systems module. Cargo build again. And all our warnings are gone. I think we're good to go. Let's cargo run just to make sure everything's still the same. And there we go. Enemies are still spawning over time. Let's pick up stars. You can still see the scores increasing. Oh, I died. And well, that's also working. Great. So now our project looks like this. Our app looks like this. Everything's still working exactly the same way, but we've got a much stronger base now from which to build on. That brings us to the end of episode 7. We've performed a simple refactor and a more advanced refactor. In the next episode, we'll look at system ordering and state. Thank you all very much for watching. Please leave your questions and feedback down in the comments below. I hope you're all enjoying this series, and I hope today wasn't overkill. All the best, and see you in episode 8. Thanks for watching.